Have you ever seen a building so bold, so completely out there, that it just changes the game for architecture forever? Well, that's the Sydney Opera House. It's more than just a building, it's a global icon for an entire continent and a true symphony in concrete.
And look, don't just take my word for it. This quote is from the Pritzker Prize Committee. That's basically the Nobel Prize for Architecture. They called it one of the great iconic buildings of the 20th century. So from the get-go, everyone knew this thing was special. It really sets the stage for the wild, dramatic story of how it actually got built.
All right, so an audacious dream. How does something this revolutionary even start? You might think it began with some grand artistic vision, but nope. It all kicked off with a pretty simple need for a new performing arts center, a need that would pretty quickly spiral into a project that grabbed the whole world's attention.
And things escalated fast. I mean, look at this timeline. It starts in the late 40s as just an idea from a conductor. By 1955, boom, it's a massive global competition with entries flooding in from all over. And then, in 1957, something totally unexpected happens. A relatively unknown Danish architect, Jørn Utzon, submits a design so radical that the judges actually threw it out at first, only for it to be pulled out of the reject pile by a famous architect who basically said, wait, no, this is genius.
And this is exactly why they took that massive leap of faith. The drawings were, as they put it, simple to the point of being diagrammatic. I mean, they were basically sketches. But the judges saw past that. They saw a concept, an idea that could become one of the greatest buildings in the world. But, you know, having a brilliant idea on paper is one thing. Actually building it, that's a whole other story.
And here's where that incredible dream slammed right into the cold, hard laws of physics. Turning Utzon's beautiful, sculptural vision into a real, stable building, well, that was a challenge that seemed, for a long time, totally impossible.
I mean, really think about this for a second. How do you build a roof like that? These weren't just simple curves. They were huge, flowing, sail-like shells. Nobody had ever built anything like it before. And this one question absolutely stumped the best engineers on the planet for years. Okay, so here's the core of the problem. Each of those original shell designs was totally unique, like a custom sculpture. That meant they couldn't reuse molds or formwork, which would have made the cost just astronomical. Not to mention, they couldn't even prove they'd be structurally sound. The entire project just stopped. It was stalled for years while the team scrambled to figure out how to build the unbuildable. All right, now for the breakthrough. And when it finally came, it wasn't about more complicated engineering or just throwing more money at it. No, it was this moment of pure geometric beauty, a single, elegant idea that unlocked the entire puzzle.
And here it is, the spherical solution. The answer was just so beautifully simple. Utzon realized, what if all the curved roof pieces weren't unique at all? What if they were all sections cut from the surface of the exact same sphere? Suddenly, every piece has the same curvature. The geometry becomes predictable, definable, and most importantly, buildable. It was a total game changer.
So here's how that genius idea worked in the real world. Because the curvature was now uniform, they could mass-produce massive concrete ribs using the same molds right there on site. All of a sudden, this chaotic, impossibly expensive construction job became a logical, repeatable process. They were basically just assembling a giant 3D puzzle.
And the scale of this puzzle was just mind-boggling. We're talking nearly 2,200 precast concrete ribs, 4,000 roof panels, and over 1 million custom-made tiles to cover the whole thing. It's staggering. So the massive engineering problem was finally solved. But just as one storm passed, a whole new political one was brewing.
You'd think that would be the hard part, right? Wrong. Just as they'd figured out the technical side, the project spiraled into a political mess. And this next part is maybe the most dramatic and kind of tragic chapter in the whole story.
At the heart of it all was this classic clash, the artist's vision versus the government's budget. Utzon wanted to handpick the best experts for the job to make sure his vision was executed perfectly. But a new government came in, saw the cost spiraling, and basically said, nope. From now on, every single contract goes out for public tender to the lowest bidder. It was a total standoff.
Well, the whole relationship just fell apart. The government started withholding payments, and Utzon couldn't even pay his own staff. In 1966, it all came to a head, and Jørn Utzon resigned. He famously called the whole mess malice in Blunderland, and he left Australia never to return. He never got to see his masterpiece finished.
So what now? The visionary genius behind the whole project is gone, but this half-finished icon is still sitting there on the harbor. The absolutely massive task of finishing it fell to a team of Australian architects led by Peter Hall. And they were put in an almost impossible position.
And they had to make some huge and pretty controversial changes. For instance, the main hall, which Utzon wanted for both opera and concerts, was changed to be just a concert hall. That pushed the opera into the smaller theater. And Utzon's amazing designs for the interiors, using these beautiful plywood forms, they were completely scrapped. The final building was, without a doubt, a masterpiece. But it wasn't exactly the one Utzon had imagined.
And the cost? Oh, the cost. The original estimate back in 1957 was a pretty optimistic $7 million. When the doors finally opened in 1973, the final bill was $102 million. That's more than 14 times the original budget. That number alone just tells you everything you need to know about the crazy, complex journey this building went on. So, from the first shovel in the ground in 1959, all the way to its grand opening by the Queen in 1973, it was a 14-year saga of pure genius, bitter conflict, and just unbelievable perseverance.
But here's the amazing thing. Despite all the drama, the insane budget, and the personal heartbreaks, the Sydney Opera House somehow emerged from all that chaos to become one of the most beloved and recognized buildings on the entire planet.
And its impact today is just undeniable. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It hosts over 1,800 performances and gets more than 10 million visitors every single year. It is, without a doubt, the symbol of Australia. Remember that original prediction from the judges? Yeah, I'd say it more than lived up to the hype.
But its legacy isn't just about beauty. This project was a hotbed of innovation. It was one of the very first buildings to use computers for design, basically an early form of CAD. It pioneered new ways of using precast concrete. And get this, the cooling system it uses, which pumps in water from the harbor, is so advanced it's still in operation today. It didn't just look like the future, it was busy inventing it.
So, all of this leaves us with one big question. What is the true cost of creating a masterpiece? The Sydney Opera House proves that sometimes great works demand way more than just money or time. They demand conflict, sacrifice, and a relentless, stubborn belief in an idea that almost everyone says is impossible. So it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Does true greatness require us to not only build something new, but to break all the old rules, and sometimes even the creators themselves along the way?